Hey you guys, it's Matt Fraser, the Psychic Medium. Welcome back to my channel. Today, we're going to be talking about souls in the afterlife. Have you ever wondered what your loved ones look like after death? Have you ever wondered what your loved ones look like in heaven and what psychics and mediums see when they channel your loved ones on the other side? Well, what I want you to know is that I have the answer because I talk to the dead every single day. And the cool part about this is that you might have the answer as well without even realizing it. You know, what's really cool is that after your loved ones pass away, they don't just come through to a psychic medium like myself. They actually come back to you, and many times your loved ones will show you what they look like in the afterlife. And what do I mean by that? Well, first of all, one of the most common things that I see as a medium is that after you lose a loved one, you might receive a dream from them within the first year of their passing. What this is it's a dream visitation, and it's your loved one coming back to you to show you what they look like in the afterlife. If you've ever had a dream of your dad who had passed away, and he came back 5 years younger in the dream, all dressed up, looking good, smelling good, hair cut, fresh clothing on, it's his way of showing you that in the afterlife, he's completely fine. If you lost your mom, and let's say for 10 years, she suffered with Alzheimer's, dementia, she didn't look the same, act the same, feel the same, you might dream of her being 10 years younger and being beautiful on the other side, being able to remember, being all dressed up, being with your dad, being at a place that she absolutely loved here in this world. What this is a spirit visitation. And the reason why I bring this up is this is exactly the way that I see your loved ones in spirit. But what I want you to know is that there's actually two ways to see the spirit world. And that is through your mind's eye and through your earthly eyes, let's call it. So what I want you to know is that what's really tough about seeing your loved ones in spirit is this, is that in heaven, your loved ones look exactly like me and you do. They have hair, they have clothes, they have tattoos on them. However they looked here in this world, the best version of themselves is the version that they have on the other side. But the tough part is that as humans, when we see spirits in our world, we see things that don't look like our loved ones. For example, you may have seen a spirit and seen an orb just float past you. And you're probably like, what the hell was that, right? Or you may have seen a spirit and out of the corner of your eye just saw a shadow go by you or just saw a flicker of something. And you're like, oh my God, that gave me the chills. What is that? Was that my mom? Was that my dad? And why do they look like that? Well, it's not like you see in the movies. What I can tell you is that because your loved ones are energy, we can't see them with our human eyes. So just like we can't see Wi-Fi signals or radio signals or things like that, but they're all around us, the same thing happens with your loved ones in spirit. Your loved ones in spirit are invisible to us as humans, but sometimes we can capture a little bit of their energy. And sometimes it's not just you who might capture their energy, it might be your phone as well. You know, so many people on social media will send me pictures that they take where they'll see an orb in the picture. And an orb is a little circle, a distortion in the picture that floats around, or a smear on the picture that looks like somebody walked by, or all of a sudden this weird distortion that you can't make out that looks like it's a face in the background. That is actually your loved one. And no, like I said, your loved one doesn't look like that. It's just their energy. For example, have you ever taken a picture and something went by the picture super quick and you couldn't really see it? Just like when I moved my hand like that really quick, you could kind of get a glimpse of it, but kind of not. The camera wasn't able to see or capture, you know, the image in that frame, right? It went by too quickly. Well, that same thing happens with our loved ones in spirit. Because our loved ones in spirit are energy, sometimes there might be a hiccup with the camera or a hiccup with the video camera or a hiccup with our eyes where we see these orbs or shadows or things like that. But what I want you to know is the cool part is that that's not what your loved ones actually look like. It's just their energy. In heaven, your loved one looks, like I said, exactly like we do. And what's so beautiful is in heaven, when souls look at one another, they're able to recognize one another just like you're able to see me right now. Because the truth is that nobody looks like you. When you were created and you were born here in this world, you were born with the way that you look for a reason. It's because you are a unique version of yourself. Your personality, your voice, how you look is all a part of who you are, including your personality. And when we pass away, souls take that version of themselves that was the best version of themselves to the other side. So think about this. I know it's kind of hard to explain, right? I hope that I'm explaining this correct to you, meaning in a way that you'll understand. Every day is a new version of ourselves, right? If you think back to your life, and especially if you're older than me, right? You have the 60s versions of yourself, the 90s version of yourself, the 2000 version of yourself, right? All the years of your life are stored within your soul. Your soul keeps track of the moment that you're born to the moment that you leave this world. Your hairstyles, your hair color, your wrinkles, your muscles, your non-muscles, however you want to call it, right? Our soul keeps track of this. Our soul keeps track of the today version of ourselves and the 10-year ago version of ourselves. So what's so beautiful is the same way that you go through a photo album and you're like, oh my God, I looked so hot back then. Oh my God, I looked so goofy back then. Oh my God, this looked like this looks like me, but this looks like, I don't even recognize the person in that picture. Well, your soul is doing that same thing. There's different versions of you stored right here, stored within your soul. It's all you, but there's one version of you that makes you, you. For example, this just happened with my son the other day with Royce. So it's so funny. I was showing Royce pictures of him on my phone. And I would say to him, I was taking out pictures of him. I'm like, Royce, who's this? And he was going, me. And I show him another picture of him. And he's like, me. And I'm like, who's this? Me, right? And then eventually I got back too far in the camera roll. I got back to when he was only, when he was only 8 months old. And I'm like, who's this? And he was looking at the picture and he's like, he had no idea that it was him, right? He was like, and then he was like, baby, baby. He had no idea. He knew it was a baby, but he didn't connect the dots to him. He didn't even realize that it was him because he never connected with that version of himself. Well, the reason why I'm telling you this is because when we pass on to the other side, we take all of these versions of our life, almost like the camera roll in our phone. And in those many, many versions of our life, there's one version that is the real us through and through. There's one version of us that we looked our best, felt our best, and that was literally the epitome of you. So if there was one good year out of all of the years of your life, what would it be? I'm not talking about your career. I'm not talking about when you had the most money, when you got the promotion, or when you got married. I'm talking about what you looked like. And I'm talking about when you looked back on these pictures, what version of you could go back to, right? When were you in your prime? What was your peak? Well, that peak is what you bring to heaven. And what's so beautiful is once we get to the other side, we get to choose that version of ourselves. Now, this is where it gets a little bit complicated about what souls look like, okay? Is that here in this world, because we live in the physical world, we do physical things. We can have tattoos put on us. We can change our hair. We can make our tatas bigger. We can make our tatas smaller, right? It's the truth, right? We can have plastic surgery done. We can do all of these things. Well, once we get to the other side, the same way that we can change our appearance here in this world, right? Where, maybe if you're in the 80s, you had a poofed up here and you had a colorful outfit on, right? And now you're dressed more conservatively as you got older. Well, in the afterlife, we do the same thing. We pick a version of ourselves that is the best, right? But we also, when we come through to people here on earth, your loved ones will come through in a way that your loved ones will recognize. So for example, your mom might appear to you in one way in a dream, but might totally change her appearance and come to your dad in a different way in his dream. Because what's really cool is in the afterlife, your loved ones get to pick a version of themselves that will relate to the person that they're coming to. And what's really cool is I've seen this happen with readings. It happens all the time with sisters, right? If two sisters will come to me for a reading, I might be connecting with one sister and their mom might look one way. And then I'll connect with the other sister and their mom might look a different way. Because the same way that we remember our loved ones and think of a time that we really connected with them is the same way that our loved ones will come back and portray themselves here in this world. So for example, let's say that your best memory of your mom was when, you had just got married and your mom was there on your wedding day and you just remember how beautiful she looked and how happy she was. And that was before she had gotten sick and all of these things and before she had gotten old. And that's how you always remember your mom in your heart. That might be how she comes and visits you from the afterlife, as being around that time period. Now, if your sister took care of your mom at the end, and let's say that your mom went to live with her, and for your sister, the best version of your mom was her later years because your mother lived with her and spent time with her and was in the house with her and ate with her. She might come through to your sister during a reading or during a dream, being back to that age, right? Because like I said, the same way that we can dress up or dress down here in this world when we go to certain restaurants at certain places, your loved ones do the same thing on the other side. It's really cool because we can go back through any version of ourselves that we want. And at first I thought this was kind of weird, right? I was like, I didn't understand like why souls did that. And then something happened to me. I actually wrote about it in my book and it made sense to me. What was so beautiful is that my grandfather actually brought this to light when he was here in this world. When I was connecting with him, when he would lose a friend, let's say a friend of his had passed away. I remember my grandfather, I don't know if your grandparents are like mine, but my grandfather, every single Sunday, I believe it was on a Sunday, used to take out the paper and read the obituaries. And I laugh at that because I hope one day I don't have to do that. But anyway, he was every Sunday he used to go and read the obituaries. And then he would look through the pictures to see if there was anybody that he recognized. So I remember my grandfather, like some days he'd be like, oh my God, so-and-so passed away. Oh my God. And I remember as a little boy, he would show me the picture of the person who had passed away and the picture would be so young. Like let's say the person was 90 years old or 80 years old, but the picture in the paper was them when they were in their 30s or in their 40s. And I used to be like, as a kid, I'd be like, Poppy, why are they putting a picture of that man who was 90 when he was in his 30s? And my grandfather actually made sense of it. He goes, well, because I lost touch with them. He goes, the family probably put that picture in because we remember, back when he was in his prime, he was in his 30s, people would remember him in this way. They're not going to remember him as being 90 years old because most people didn't have contact with him when he was 90 years old, right? We go in different era. We lose touch with people. We lose communications with people. If you saw a picture of your loved one or someone that you knew, right? Let's say the last time you spoke to them was they were 40 years old and then they pass at 90, you're not going to recognize that picture. Does that make sense? For example, my mom just went to her high school reunion. I think it was like, what did my mother say? Was it her 30th high school? I don't know. It was some number up there. I don't want to say the wrong number. My mother just got back and my mother's like, I had no idea who everybody was. And it was funny because everybody at the high school reunion had their old yearbook pictures on a sticker on them. And they were all going around the what's it called? The high school reunion, looking at the yearbook picture like, oh, who were you? And instead of looking at the name, they're looking at the picture like, oh, wait a minute. I think I went to math class with you. Oh, wait a minute. I think you were on the football team. They're like, oh, yeah. But it's funny because the way that they identified with one another was way back 30 years ago. They had to look at those old pictures to realize who everybody was because they changed so much. But what I want you to know is that that's the reason why your loved ones in spirit come through is they don't want to come through in a way that you won't recognize. When they come through in a dream or come through and reach you, they'll come through in a way that you'll most recognize and you'll most feel comfortable with. And that's what's so beautiful about the other side. So your loved ones can appear different ages, different ways with different hairstyles. But what's also so beautiful is that your loved ones don't lose their uniqueness. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but there's a reading up on my YouTube page where a woman was completely left in shock because her son had come through. And when I was connecting with him in the afterlife, he had showed me that he had these beautiful tattoos all over his body. Well, his mother and his sister started freaking out during the reading. They actually broke down in tears. And I was like, oh my God, I'm like, why are you crying? And she was like, Matt, my son was a beautiful tattoo artist. She says he used to actually do his own tattoos. And he was a tattoo designer. She goes, and I always wondered if he had tattoos in heaven. And it was just such a validation to her that her son was in heaven with tattoos. And she's like, I didn't think that would be possible. Well, you gotta remember that even though the tattoos are on the physical body here in this world, when we go to the other side, we take our image with us, our image and our likeness and our personality. So on the other side, if your tattoos were something that you loved and were a part of you in the afterlife, you'll have them. Right? If there was someone in the afterlife who here in this world had, dyed their hair red and always went as a redhead, even though they were blonde here in this world, right? They were born blonde. In the afterlife, they'll have red hair, right? Because your loved ones are still the same. That was a choice that they made. It was something they loved about themselves, even if it was something they had to change about themselves when they were living, and they'll be that way in the afterlife. The only thing that changes about the appearance of your loved one is if something happened to your loved one that wasn't truly them. For example, there was a woman that I was connecting with, and unfortunately, she had such a terrible illness, she lost both of her legs. Well, guess what? When I connected with her in the afterlife, she had those legs back. But I was also connecting with the man. I don't know if you guys saw it on my television show. The clip is up on YouTube. There was this man that I was connecting with in the afterlife. I'll never forget. I was at a live show and his spirit came through. And when I went to connect with him, he went to wave to me and he was missing a finger. It was like this, you guys. And he didn't have that finger back in the afterlife. Now, if he wanted to, could he have had that finger back? Absolutely. But because that missing finger that he had was I shouldn't be doing this. I don't know if that's a bad sign or not, but that's how I saw him. He was missing this finger. Okay. I don't know what that means. So I have to be careful about the hand gestures. But what I want you to know is that when he went to say hello and he didn't have that finger, that was his way of showing his family and his friends that he was still the same person, right? Because that was a characteristic that they always joked about, that they laughed about. That was truly him. So what I want you to know is that it all is based on your loved ones. But I want you to remember one thing. There's two ways that we see our loved one, within our mind's eye and with our earthly eyes. So when we see our loved ones with our earthly eyes, we automatically will see orbs and shadows and random distortions and things like that in pictures, right? That's how we see their energy. But remember that the easiest way to see your loved ones are through dreams. And by the way, that's the same way that mediums connect with your loved ones. When I connect with your loved ones, like for example, when I look out onto a crowd, if you like, for example, when you see me give audience readings, and I look out and I say, "Oh, your mom is here with you. Oh, your dad is here with you." What I'm seeing with my earthly eyes is I'm seeing shadows and silhouettes. I might see the shadow or the figure of a young man being next to this woman. And I'll know, okay, that was her fiance or that was her brother. And then something amazing happens. When I go to give that soul my energy, when I go to connect with that soul goes from being a shadow in front of me to all of a sudden I start to see them with my mind's eye. And as a psychic medium, what your mind's eye is your mind's eye is an energy space that allows you to see into the spirit world. The only way that we can see into the spirit world isn't with our actual eyes, because our eyes are only able to see physical things. It's with our third eye. So your third eye is a space in your mind. It's an energy space that connects with the other side that allows us to see premonitions, omens, and that also allows us to see our loved ones in spirit. And if you ever wonder what that's like, it's exactly like dreaming. I've learned through mediumship and through all these years of doing what I do, that same way that we can see people in our dreams that have passed away, that same energy space that's there in our minds is that same space that all psychics and mediums access. So I want you to know this, because so many people write to me and they freak out. And they're like, "Matt, are we naked on the other side?" No, we're not naked. I've never seen boobies or dingling or asses or anything like that. Thank God. May I hope I never see it. But chances are, if I'm connecting with somebody who's a nudist who grew up in a nudist colony, I'm probably going to see that, right? Because that's something that they were proud of here in life, and they're most likely going to be proud of the afterlife. But what I also want you to know is that your loved ones do wear clothes, they do have hairstyles, and your loved ones have a body on the other side. It's not a physical body. They don't have a heart or lungs or bones or things like that, but your loved ones have an appearance. Just because they died doesn't mean that they look any different or feel any different. Your loved ones are the same. And that's what's so beautiful. And that's really what your loved ones want you to know with every reading that I do. They truly want you to know that they are the same, that the only thing that's different is that they've changed worlds, but they still love you the same. Their personality is the same, and they're able to look after you within life. And that's why I love doing what I do as a medium. I love being able to help you connect with your loved ones and show you that what you saw before your loved one died, whatever you had to go through, whether it be watching your loved one take their last breath, whether your loved one passed tragically and your last moments was seeing them laid out in a casket, whether it be that your loved one passed and they just didn't act themselves, that all changes when your loved one goes to the other side. And they are the very best version of themselves. That's how I see them, but that's also how your loved ones in spirit want you to see them. So what I want you to know is that if you haven't done this yet, I really want to invite you to come and join me for a live reading, either online or in person. And if you've never been to one of my tour stops, I just announced brand new tour stops all across the United States and Canada, where I'm going to be doing one thing, and that is helping you reconnect with your loved ones in spirit. So if you've ever wondered what a psychic reading is like live and in person, take a look at this video right here. So I know that your stepfather became your dad here in this world.
Yes, he did.
And I know that he's the man that you want to hear from, because he was so influential within your life. And he's also here. What's so beautiful is you have two dads that are watching over you in heaven. You have your stepfather, and you have your real father here.
Thank you so much. Unbelievable. I didn't think I was gonna get chosen. And then to hear not only from my dad, but from my stepfather was amazing. And to have him apologize, it healed something in me. I'm forever grateful. Matt Fraser healed my heart and is gonna make tomorrow a better day for me.